Hello, welcome to week 4, September 27th through October 1st. If you're watching this video, it is because you were absent either one day or multiple days during this week. This is for English 10, so watching this video, after you watch it, if you have any questions, let me know, but this is going to cover what I have planned to go this week, of course, because I always record these videos at the start of the week. So the schedule for this week, we're going to take some notes on Monday for our argumentative writing unit on rhetoric, and then we are going to do a rhetoric graphic novel activity. So if you are gone on this day, which would be Monday, you don't need to worry about that activity because it's not something that you can do. It's a group thing. So anyway, Wednesday, our plan is to do a grammar lesson on punctuation, focusing on apostrophes. We're going to have some independent reading time, and then we're going to finish the week with looking at an article about Kobe Bryant. It's a persuasive opinion piece, looking at evidence there, and then we have First Chapter Friday. So last week we started our argumentative writing unit, and we talked about just the basics of what is an argument, what is a syllogism. Syllogisms being like the most basic form of an argument that is kind of irrefutable. The logic just lines up. So now we're going to transition into looking at persuasion. How do we take an argument and actually make it persuasive? So on your slides, before you watch this next video, I want you to pause this video that you're watching and write down what you know about logos, pathos, and ethos. Anything that you can remember. If you've never been taught these things before and they just look completely unfamiliar to you, just say, I don't know, I've never been taught this before. But if you have, I want you to try to remember what each one is and tell me on this slide. So go ahead and do that. So what you're going to do now is you're going to pause my video that you're watching, and you're going to watch this video in your slides. It's a TED Ed video called How to Use Rhetoric to Get What You Want. And after you watch it, you're going to define what ethos, pathos, and logos really are according to the video. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so you watch the video and you defined what each one is according to the video. Logos has to do with logic and reason. Pathos is all about emotions and empathy and a lot of times nostalgia. And ethos is all about the credibility of the people you are referring to. So think about the E's: experience, education, and an expert. Who is the expert that is being quoted? So what you're going to do now on these slides, you are going to watch whatever video is posted. This is there's going to be 3 commercials, and each one focuses on a specific form of persuasion. So this T-Mobile commercial is focusing on logos. So you're going to watch it. It's about 30 seconds. And then you're going to tell me what is the conclusion, what's the basic argument in this ad, how are they using logos, and what types of evidence. So refer back to our notes from last week. The types of evidence can be one of 5: facts, numbers, examples, analogies, or quotes. So go ahead, do this slide, watch the video. You're going to repeat the same process for these next 2. So this one is about pathos. This is a Chevy truck commercial. You're going to tell me what's the argument, how are they using pathos, which is all about emotions and empathy and nostalgia, and what type of evidence are they using. And then you will repeat the same process by watching this. This video on your copy of the slides, I think, is a different video and it's not working. I had to fix this with first period the other day. So don't worry about this one because the video on your slide will not work. Okay. So persuasion. Logos may get us to the truth, but the goal of authors and speakers is to convince the audience of truth. So of course, with every argument we're looking at, we need to start off on the right foot, being, is the argument just logical? Like, is it possible in the reality that we know to argue the argument you have? But I want you to tell me, do you think that one of these 3 things, logos, pathos, or ethos, is better than another to use in an argument? Is there some way that you would rank these, or are they all pretty equal? So I want you to tell me yes or no to the question, and then tell me why. Explain your reasoning, yes or no. Okay. So this activity is a group activity that we do in class. If you were gone on Monday, you don't need to worry about turning anything in for this, but I do want you to read this article. So it's linked here in the slides. It's also linked on Canvas. It's an article about using ethos, pathos, and logos and arguments, but it's in the form of a graphic novel, like a comic book, which is pretty cool. So take a look at it. It's linked again in the slides and on Canvas. So you can ignore this part. This was for the group project in class. Okay, so we're looking at punctuation for Wednesday's lesson. This is our grammar lesson. Punctuation can greatly change the meaning of any sentence, statement, or whole text that you are looking at. So here's a picture of my lovely parents. I'm going to tell you something about my mom. This is my mom. Her name is Debbie. She is a big user of the voice to text feature on her phone, where she will click a button and talk into the phone, and it'll record everything she's saying when she's trying to text me. And it usually looks like this when she does it, and it's really confusing because when she's talking into the phone, unless you tell it to put a period or an exclamation point or a question mark or an apostrophe, it won't do it. So this is an example of a text that something that she would send me. I'll be home in a few minutes. We're going out with the berries tonight, so please make sure that the dishes are put away. Bella needs to be taken out for a walk, and her water and food dish need to be refilled. If you could please do this, that would be awesome. Do you remember last night when you were talking about what you need at the store? I need to know what it is because I can't figure it out from my memory. All in one breath, because there's no punctuation. If she were to actually sit down and type out what she's trying to text me, it would look something like this. So it's the same exact message, but there's punctuation. We see commas and periods and question marks, and it's just so much easier to read. So what I want you to do, we're going to focus on learning about apostrophes this week. I want you to pause my video and watch this TED Ed video about apostrophes, and then we're going to go through and answer some questions. Okay, so after watching the video, let's review. You use apostrophes for a couple of reasons. One, to mark possession. Lucy's robot. The robot belongs to Lucy. Don't eat that robot, to mark contraction. So you're taking two words, do and not, and you're putting them together. And then this is more rare, but to mark the plural of single letters. So mind your P's and Q's. Possession and contraction are going to be the two main situations in which you would use a apostrophe. So what I have on this slide is 3 examples, and I want you to what you're going to have to do is go up here and go to the shapes, and you can do a square or a circle, and you're going to tell me which one is correct. So when you draw a shape, you can make it smaller. You can change the color of this by going up here and making it transparent, and you're just going to circle for me which one is correct based off of your knowledge of what we just learned. Or you can even make it smaller and just circle the number, whatever works for you. So take a look at these examples. You're going to circle which one is correct. It's the same exact example, but the apostrophes are used differently. Mrs. Albritton's favorite MCU character is Steve Rogers. The second slide is more apostrophe practice. So you are going to tell me if it is correct or not. So what you could do is just add a text box at the end of each sentence, because this is a picture that's on the screen. It's not something you can edit, the text box itself. Or you can just circle and tell me which one is correct. So read each one and tell me if the apostrophe is in there and if it's used correctly. After that, we have independent reading time. So obviously, if you missed Wednesday, you need to make sure that you take some time to read whatever choice reading book you picked. And then this should be for Friday's lesson, since I'll be seeing you on Friday. I want you to go back if you're missing Friday and review everything that we learned this week. Go over the notes, review it. I'm not going to do it in the video, but I want you to do that. And then the other day, this is what I would say on Friday, I asked you this question, and so now I want you to think about this again. So let's say I'm writing an essay and my persuasive topic, the topic I'm trying to convince you of, is to become a vegetarian. That's what I'm trying to do. I could say, this is an argument, all animals have feelings just as the human animal does. Factory farming, injections, and slaughtering are horrible and painful. You should quit eating meat. I also could say, the environment should be protected. Cattle raising uses enormous amounts of water, generates massive amounts of waste, and destroys rainforests in South America. You should quit eating meat. Or I could say fat and cholesterol are health hazards and lead to heart problems. Beef and pork have lots of fat and cholesterol. You should quit eating meat. Every single argument here has the exact same conclusion, that you should quit eating meat and you should become a vegetarian. But the argument leading up to it, the statements, the claims that I'm making are different. There are different point of view. So I want you to look at these three, and I want you to tell me in this box which argument is the most convincing to you and why. Again, the bottom line is still the same. I'm trying to convince you to become a vegetarian, but each argument is a little bit different in why I think you should. So I want you to tell me which one you think is the most convincing and why in this box. So let's try another topic. Convincing your grandma to get a smartphone. Let's say you are trying to convince your grandmother, who's old and from a totally different generation, to get a smartphone. She doesn't have one. Here she is. Here's grandma. This could be an argument you make. If you got a smartphone, you could use TikTok. Now you have a smartphone, you can use TikTok now. You notice that I have this in the form of a syllogism. Argument number 2 that you could make. If you got a smartphone, you could FaceTime us. You now have a smartphone, you can FaceTime us now. Which one do you think is going to be more convincing for your grandma? Which argument do you think she would go for? Well, I would definitely bet across the board that any grandparent would probably pick the second argument, because they're from an older generation. They don't care about TikTok. What they want is to connect with their grandkids. And so this argument would be way more persuasive for them. So the big lesson here, is that you need to know your audience. You need to know, who are you trying to convince? What would be a good motive for them? So let's try another one. This time you're going to fill in the rest of the argument. So here's one version of it. Okay. Either distance learning or in-person school will benefit students. Distance learning creates many obstacles for students, therefore in-person school is better than distance learning. So this is the argument itself, this bottom line. I want you to think of another reason that you could persuade someone that in-person school is better. So you cannot use what I did up here, but think of another reason. Why else would you tell somebody that in-person learning is better? And then I want you to write it up here. So to recap everything, it's so important to know your audience. And I want you to tell me why. Why is it important? And what can you do to specifically write for your audience? Give me your best shot at answering those questions. Okay, so this is something that you can do even if you are not in person on the day we do this. You will notice it should be linked in the slides, and it's definitely linked on Canvas. There is going to be this article that you will read. It's called The Kobe Legacy, Should the NBA Let High School Players Skip College? You are going to read the article, and you are going to find evidence. If you are doing this online, you are going to use a color code system to identify which one is which. If you were in person and you wanted to do it on paper, you could use this system. But I need you to identify one way or another what evidence you are seeing in this article. So you can use what I have here as a key code. If you want to create your own, you can, but you need to tell me what that key code is so when you turn it in, I know. So you're going to read the article and you're going to highlight or identify what evidence you see and what kind it is based off of the key that you made. After reading the article, you're going to answer these questions. What type of evidence was most used was most present in the article? Was there one that kind of maybe they used examples a lot and hardly any numbers? You're going to tell me which one did they use the most. And then for you, looking at the argument, I want you to tell me what type of evidence was the most convincing to you personally when you read the article, and tell me why. Okay, to wrap up the week, we have First Chapter Friday. This is one of my favorite books that I've read in such a long time. It is called Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. It's historical fiction, but the stories that she writes are based off of true historical events. So this is a story about refugees during World War II who are trying to escape parts of Nazi-occupied, I forget the country, but they're by the Baltic Sea, and each chapter is told from a different person's point of view. There are 4 main characters, and bit by bit you learn about each person and what they're going through, and it's just incredible. The chapters are like 3 pages max, so there's a lot of chapters, but they go by so quickly. And the best way that I could describe this book is that you feel like you're reading a movie, like if you were watching a movie but you're reading it through a book. It is amazing. If you love historical fiction, if you love anything about World War II, I highly, highly recommend this. So in the slides, you should see this video. This is a book trailer. And then I have a copy of the book. So if you would like to borrow it, let me know. So that is all I have for you for English 10 for week 4. If you have any questions, let me know.